In the PACE auditory processing program, we force students to analyze, manipulate, blend, and segment the sounds in words. In this activity, we'll be working to master the vowel sounds. Throughout the whole PACE auditory processing program, our goal is to develop the auditory processing or phonemic awareness skills for a student. In this activity, Greg, I'd like you to replace the vowel sound in the word that I say with the vowel sounds that you see on this sheet. Blib.
Blib, bleb, blab, blub, blob.
Crin.
Crin, cran, cran, crun, crun.
Slud.
Slid, sled, slad, slud, slod.
Prid.
Prid, pred, prad, prud, prod.
Drit.
Drit, drit, drat, drut, drot.
Notice the speed with which Greg was replacing the vowels in this activity. You'll find throughout the PACE auditory processing program that it's extremely powerful and helps quickly to develop the student's auditory processing or phonemic awareness skills. This is one of our powerful procedures that we call the speed letters. It helps to improve concentration, visual span, discrimination of letters, and fixation. Most importantly, it also works to quickly improve a student's processing speed skills. In this activity, Greg, what I'd like you to do is to circle one letter. As you come to each S, work as quickly as you can and circle the S. Ready? Begin. Notice how this activity also forces Greg to use his selective attention skills by focusing only on the S and ignoring all the other letters that he's attending to. As you can see, as we work quickly through this activity, it works very strongly to improve a student's processing speed skills. This is a higher level of the same procedure, but it will be improving a number of different skills. First of all, we'll be demonstrating discrimination of different letters, which will help to eliminate reversal problems for students. We'll also work on divided attention skills, which again is the ability to do a number of things at the same time, what some people call multitasking. We'll also be working on loading, and you'll see that demonstrated by Greg having, as he comes to each letter, to circle it or put a square around it, do a different shape around each of the letters. He'll also be counting to a metronome at the same time, and I'll be giving him numbers to add up at the end of each line. And that's called loading because we're loading a number of different things onto the task. We do this throughout a number of the PACE procedures, but you'll see a very high level of it, how we do it in the speed letters. So Greg, I'm going to turn on the metronome and I'd like you to start. Ready? Begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
2,
6, 7, 8, 9,
5,
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 7, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20,
3,
21, 22, 23, 24, 25,
2,
26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 5.
As you can see, this is a very complex activity where we loaded a number of activities on and developed lots of skills, the processing speed, the concentration, and also the divided attention skills. So throughout the PACE procedures, as we get to higher levels and we load these things on, we're developing multiple skills at the same time.
We have been using PACE at the Stoll Learning Center for the past 2.5 years. At our center, we work with students of all ages who have learning disabilities, Asperger's syndrome, high-functioning autism, a few slow learners, and a group of students that I would call inefficient learners, students that may be getting very good grades in school, but are working too hard and too long for the grades that they're getting. We have found that PACE is a very good tool for all of these groups of students. When I first brought PACE into the center, I thought, well, this is a new tool, we'll give it a shot. We knew that we already had some very strong, very cutting-edge kinds of programs and strategies that were really working for us. But once we got going with the PACE program, I really felt it was truly the most exciting thing I had seen in this field in 15 years. And PACE, in the last 2.5 years, has become the core piece of our therapy. My goal for students is that they become comfortable, independent learners. And in order to do that, I always am looking for the very best, the most efficient tools that are out there. I also know that if I'm really going to make a lasting impact on students with learning disabilities, I have to be using strategies that help develop those underlying thinking processes that allow a person to be an efficient learner. The PACE program does that. In the way that it's set up, it is fun, it's fast-paced, and one of the things I really like about it is that all of the activities have several different processing skills integrated into them. So maybe you're working with an activity that's directed mainly at memory, but you're also getting the opportunity to work on attention, processing speed, and auditory processing. So it just gives you an opportunity to just tap that nail in all those processing skill areas over and over in a fun and quick-paced way.
My name is Suzanne Wolf. I think the biggest advantage that PACE gives my students is to become truly educated. I have been able to tutor children one-on-one for a long time and improve their grades. That's not education. Education is to be able to take knowledge and apply it. The way the cognitive training overlaps so many different areas, it allows my students to go into classes and start concentrating on learning the material, not just trying to memorize so much and learn enough to get a passing grade. That's the mark of real education. I think one of my favorite anecdotes here about PACE involves a student who was a sophomore in high school, very athletic, pitcher on the baseball team, on and on. He did not want to come for academic tutoring, let alone cognitive training, although he had been identified with massive learning disabilities before school as a 4-year-old. His father was a physician. He would not work on PACE with his mother, and he was only begrudgingly being polite to me. However, after about a month's time on PACE, he could hardly wait to get there, and we honestly had fun with our sessions. He worked harder than almost any other student I had. His father, as a physician, told me afterwards that he wished he'd had a chance to take PACE himself, because just through the tutoring, he said if he could have had it before med school, it would have improved his memory, and he's been a long-time emergency room physician. But this young man, who is wonderful in terms of his attitude now, because of his self-confidence, has increased so enormously now. With ADHD as one of his diagnoses, he has all of the textbook perfect predispositions to oppositional behaviors and so on and so forth. But I'll never forget one day when he was having a spelling test in school, and he was phenomenal at some of the modules, spelling 12, 13-letter words backwards. So he went in and took a spelling test, and he got an A. His teacher said to him, "I know you cheated." And he was deflated. He was thunderstruck, and he said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You got 100 on the test, but I know you cheated." He said, "I did not." He said, "I told you I've been in this training program, and I can spell these words backwards, too, if you want me to." And she said, "Well, you may be able to spell them, but you certainly don't know what they mean." And he sat back in his chair, displaying perhaps one of the behaviors that we were unable to correct, but he said to her, "I don't think I like your belligerent behavior." And I just loved it, because he was taking in the spelling as well as the meaning. And his scores, he was reading for the first time in his life. And when he took the post-test, great big guy, he had tears in his eyes, and because he knew he'd done so well. And he said to me, "I'm not really stupid, am I?"
My name is Carol Hess. I'm a provider in the Sacramento, California area. I have been teaching high school for the last 20 years. I got an opportunity to become the vice principal for a while, and I found out the common denominator was that kids who were struggling with learning became discipline problems and ended up dropping out of school. One of the things that I found is that kids who think of themselves as poor learners or stupid give up, and they have no hope, and then they become discipline problems. As a provider, I've taken in about 15 children through this program now, and if you had an opportunity to listen to the parents, they say things like, "I've got my kid back," or how does this work? I don't know how it works. But all of a sudden they want to read, and they didn't want to read before. One of the students, his name is Alex. When he came to us, he was on 3 different drugs medications to handle his hyperactivity and bipolar, and was not even functioning well in private school. When he began the program, he came in disappointed, depressed, angry. He didn't want to try anything. By the end of the 5th week, he bound in every single day, and just finished with his testing, and is now in public school. 50% of his medications have been dropped off, and he's performing at grade level for the first time in his life. Another child I want to tell you about, his name is Kelly. Kelly's parents were told that she should be held back in 3rd grade, and her parents said, no, I don't think so. Kelly went through the program this summer and entered in the school in September, having just finished the program. Parents reported to me that not only is she excelling in her class, she has actually been put up a year into the 1-year higher reading level, and is able to do math facts that she's never been able to do before.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Betancourt. We had a young boy in 3rd grade by the name of Alex who went through our PACE program. He was in 3rd grade reading on a 1st grade level. After 10 weeks in this case of intensive training, Alex caught up very quickly with the rest of his class within a month after the PACE program, and was reading actually on a 4th grade level. His mother stated that before he would never attempt to read, and it was a struggle to get him to do all of his homework. They would spend approximately 2.5 to 3 hours every night, and she stated it was causing a lot of family disruption, and Alex just felt like he was a failure in school. After the program, again, he came back up to age level with his reading, and his mother states that she spends very little, if any, time. Alex does most of his homework on his own now and carries books with him wherever he goes. He's a very active athlete, and whenever he goes to soccer matches, he always carries 2 or 3 books and loves to read. We have been a provider of the PACE program for several years now, and have had many stories. All the children that have been through the program have benefited tremendously and have made great gains in school. There's been a lot of transfer from the skills practicing into the classroom setting, and the parents have been surprised at how that transfer has taken place with the type of training and skill activities that we stress in our program, and how that is able to then transfer in the academic environment. And many of the children have had tremendous success in the school after going through the program.